Hey, good afternoon. Welcome to this week's edition of Artist Alchemy. This is the show where we like to examine how artists take kind of the everyday and turn things into something magical or impressive or mysterious. So that's kind of what artists do. We're very pleased this week to welcome our special guest, Corey Kersting. Corey, great to see you.
Thanks, David. Nice to be here. Yeah.
Yeah, thanks for being on with us.
Yeah.
Let's just cut right to the chase. How is your life in the times of COVID? How are you and your family and students doing?
Well, like everybody else, I think it's definitely a challenge, and we look forward to when life comes back to somewhat of a normalcy again. But we're hanging in there. Our family's healthy. All of our family members are healthy, and so all things considered, we're doing really well. My wife and I, we have 4 kids, and so I say we are, but it's really my wife is, doing a great job kind of helping manage things with our kids doing school online. While I'm teaching online I'm teaching at Yuba City High School from the school. So she's doing a fantastic job just kind of helping our kids, but our school is also doing a great job keeping the kids engaged. And so we're hanging in there, and we're pushing forward.
Good. So you're teaching what would have been your full classroom complement of classes, but all using various virtual platforms.
Yep. Yeah. So I teach at Yuba City High School. I have the Yuba City High School Orchestra, and then I also teach beginning violin at Riverbend and Berry schools, which are K-8 schools. So we start beginning instruments in 4th grade, and that goes all the way into middle school at those schools. So I have beginning, intermediate, and middle school orchestras at both of those schools. And I also have 4th and 5th grade students at Bridge Street School, all teaching, learning through Zoom and Google Classroom, Google Meets right now. So,
yeah, and I mentioned this to you as we were preparing for the show that I didn't realize. I always thought of you as Yuba City High School and all the other things you do, and I didn't realize that you were teaching those other grade levels as well. So you're really covering the bases.
Yeah. And, people ask me that a lot, between teaching multiple school sites, and isn't that really hard? And I actually enjoy it for a few reasons. I really enjoy the age range of the different students. When you have 4th and 5th graders that are just super excited to be learning how to play an instrument, and just kind of the joy that you get to bring by sharing music with them and having them share music in turn with their families. That's something that's really special. And then getting to see that progression from those 4th graders all the way into middle school when they kind of start to figure things out a little bit and start to take it a little more seriously. And then to high school where, they're there because they want to be there. They're there because they want to be successful and put on their best performances. And it really starts to kind of become a family really at the high school level. And some of these students that I've had, I started them in 4th grade, and some of them continue all the way through high school. So I've got a nice group of seniors this year, and a lot of them I started as 4th and 5th graders. And so I've known them and their families for, the better part of 7, 8, 9 years. So it's
I was going to ask, so you do get that continuum.
Yeah. Not every single student, because some come from other schools along the way. Right. But I do have that good core group that, I did get to teach them and kind of see them all the way through to high school. And so that's pretty neat. And
then they become part of the orchestra and
then some of them start playing in the the community orchestra with the YubaSutterArts Symphony, and so it's really neat just to kind of to see that progression, like I said, and be part of that musical family in our community.
Oh, that's wonderful. And if they time it right and they're in that cycle, they get to go to New York, right? Well,
yeah,
budget permitting, I know.
Yeah. So with my high school class talking about New York, and you have Carnegie Hall there in our background, but we did with the Yuba City High School Orchestra, we have done 2 trips to New York, and we're kind of on a rotation of going once every 4 years. So we went for the first time in 2014 and had a fabulous experience. And there's some of our pictures from our trip even. But it's an amazing trip. And it's an amazing experience for these students that have been able to go on this trip with us. And we open it up to all the students, and we try to, we've had fundraisers and we get community sponsors. So we get a good number of the students are able to go on these trips. But it's, it's kind of a once in a lifetime experience for these kids to be able to go to New York. And we're there for about 5 days, and we go through a travel company. And so we have a tour guide, and they cram in all kinds of things. These are some of our pictures from Carnegie Hall. We didn't get to perform there, but we did get a kind of behind the scenes tour of Carnegie Hall, and some docents, kind of tell us the story of how it was built and when it was built and how it was kind of saved from being torn down.
Right.
So it's an amazing experience. Carnegie Hall, Radio City Music Hall. We get to see it. We've seen a Broadway show. The last time we went, here's the Stardust Diner, which, if you're familiar with it, and basically all the servers there are Broadway actors that are kind of in between jobs, in between shows, and they sing while they're serving you their breakfast and that story. So it's a lot of fun, and getting to.
Did you stay in Manhattan, or were we out in the suburbs somewhere?
No, we stayed right in kind of the theater district this last time. So we were just around, we walked around the block, and there was the stage door for Dear Evan Hansen and Frozen, and I forget what else was around us, but it's just right there. So it's pretty neat.
Oh, how exciting. Those field trips are so important. We hope that they'll be able to be continued.
Yeah, definitely. And some of these students, some of the students hadn't even been on a plane before they go on this trip. And so this was their first plane ride, and they get to go across the country and really experience all of these amazing historical and cultural experiences in New York City. And we performed publicly. This is Radio City Music Hall. Now we got to walk around on the stage at Radio City Music Hall, and this last time we went, we got to perform at Macy's, and that was pretty exciting. And when we went in 2014, we got to perform at the Trump Tower, which was also a neat experience. One of the students, when we were performing, they were joking. They said, "Hey, I'm friends with Donald Trump on Twitter. Maybe I should tweet him and see if he's in the tower, if he'll come down." But he never came down. So.
Oh, how fun!
So
fun. Wow, that's fantastic. Well, may we bring back those days of field trips and those kind of amazing adventures and experiences for the students. So that's
I sure hope so, because in the midst of all this COVID, I feel like in our community and in our nation and our culture as a whole, there's been a lot of focus on the arts, and people figuring out ways to share their art form, whatever that might be. I've seen people doing storytelling, sharing music, and famous people doing little live performances. I think even Josh Gad was doing some storytelling in the beginning days of all of this, and artists doing free online things. And so that was, especially back in March, when all of this really, kind of the reality of this all started to set in. That was something really neat to see, was the immense amount of art that was being shared freely and with anybody. And that's kind of how we as artists want it to be, where other people can experience art and in new ways and try things out and see something maybe they've never seen or done before. So
that whole wellness and therapeutic aspect of art, and now, as you say, more so than ever.
Yeah,
so important. Was it Patrick Stewart reading all 154 Shakespeare sonnets? Every day or two. That's been one of my favorites. It's like, wow, when would we have ever been able to experience that under normal circumstances? He'd have been working on this film or some new TV project. So So you're doing all the music education on using the various virtual platforms, and beyond that, what do you do under normal or these circumstances to keep the music instruction relevant for your students? Is it strictly a diet of the classics, or do you do a pop culture thing and contemporary music? How do you mix it up?
Over the years, so this is my 22nd year now of teaching, and I think over the years, I think when I first started, I was definitely much more focused on the classics, and just graduating from the UOP
Oh,
Conservatory
right.
down to Stockton, and being very focused on performance and education, and but over the years, I have branched out to include a lot more pop movie type music,
Yeah,
and a whole lot of new contemporary compositions in the repertoire that my students learn at all different levels. And I think there are huge advantages to those things for including pop and movie music at times with our students. It's something that they're familiar with, that
sure.
their families are familiar with, that maybe they didn't realize, oh, this is actually played by an orchestra in the film score. Oh, yeah, I can hear the violins now that I kind of look at it a second time. So I've definitely branched out, and I try to do a good mixture of those, some multicultural kinds of music, pop or movie music, in addition to, some of the standard classics that students, that they should be aware of and know a little bit about and how to play. So yeah, I've definitely kind of grown in that way as a teacher, I think.
Fantastic. Who are you and your students listening to today that you find important or significant or relevant to what you're doing as far as a teacher?
Yeah. So with our classes being online right now, every day I actually start my class, I have a little agenda where I'm sharing my screen, and I've kind of been doing a different composer of the week that, kind of while students are arriving to class, I've got some composition playing in the background. And we spent a week kind of talking a little bit about John Williams and some of his music. And we've done, last week we were doing some Vivaldi, and we were talking about the Four Seasons a little bit with Vivaldi. This week I've been playing Brahms. We've done some Rimsky-Korsakov, and so yeah, it's kind
really
of been
mixing it up. Yeah,
it's kind of been fun, and it's been a good challenge for me. Like, all right, where are we going to go next with what kind of music we're listening to? And it's just kind of at the beginning of our class as people are showing up, and we talk just a little bit about it and why I enjoy that piece of music particularly, and how that composer was maybe relevant during their time and is still relevant today.
Fantastic.
So, yeah.
So what about you, Cora? You and your background as a musician, when did you start to really get serious about music as a career?
That's a good question. I'm a violinist. I started playing violin when I was about 5 with Ingrid Gaston. Some of you might know Ingrid Gaston. She was a long time. She's still in the area.
Yes.
But she was my private violin teacher for about 10 years.
Wow.
And then in high school, when I started, I think it was about my sophomore year in high school, I started to get a little bit more serious and realizing that maybe I should be taking it a little bit more seriously too. And I started taking lessons with a gentleman in Sacramento. His name is Michael Newman. He was the conductor of the Sacramento Youth Symphony for a long, long time. He actually just retired this last year from the Youth Symphony. And I was part of the Sacramento Youth Symphony for my last 2 years in high school. And that was a pretty amazing experience, just being in this symphony with all these tremendous youth that were, fantastic musicians and just fun people to be around. And that really kind of opened my eyes to, I can, improve even more and seeing what some of those students were able to do. So it probably wasn't until my senior year when I was really starting to think about where I was going to go to college, because I really enjoyed math. Math was, I really enjoyed math and was good at math. And so I thought about going into teaching and maybe being a math teacher or getting a math minor. But I really just kind of felt like music has always been a part of me, and that's something I wanted to be able to share in some capacity. And I wasn't quite sure how, but I did the UOP summer music camp for 5-6 years, and I loved it there. And it's a beautiful campus, and they have some amazing staff and faculty. Some of my former college friends are actually are professors there now.
Wow.
And but so I went down to UOP, and originally as a violin performance major, but I also knew that I really enjoyed working with youth. I had done a lot of working with youth with my church as a high school student, and that was something I had a lot of fun doing. And so I started with as a performance major, and then gradually moved into being a music education major, and that's kind of when I really then found like that was going to be my niche. And so yeah, and then
So you did the undergraduate at UOP?
I did.
Yeah,
I finished that, and then my teacher Ingrid Gaston, she retired right when I graduated, and so I came up here and kind of stepped into her spot with Yuba City Unified, and then I've been here ever since. And I did go back eventually and get my master's degree at UOP in music education, and that was a good experience too. That was my wife was taking classes at Sac State at the time, and she was doing a lot of traveling, and we didn't have any kids yet. And I was like, well, if my wife can do this, she was going every single day. I could go down to Stockton once a week because that's all I really had.
You were commuting. Oh gosh.
Yeah. So it was only one. I had a lot of courses already done, so I didn't have too much left to finish my master's. But so yeah, I got to finish that.
So the master's in music education. There's this. I'm going to show my ignorance here. That word I always struggle with. Music pedagogy. Is that the word?
Music pedagogy. Yes.
Pedagogy. Is that music education, or does it mean something else? I always struggle with it.
I think about music pedagogy is really more more specific in educational techniques, I suppose, because I have some friends that have done like Suzuki pedagogy, where they really get immersed in, how to successfully teach in the Suzuki method, that sort of thing. Okay. So yeah, I think it's a little more specific form of that education part. Okay,
wonderful. Yeah. So you mentioned some of your early instructors, Ingrid, and any other outstanding influences in your life as a musician that really made a difference in you adopting this as a career?
Richard Morrissey was my high school orchestra teacher, and he was a great teacher and taught me a lot about being a musician and being a kind of a complete musician. And I also learned a lot when I first started teaching back here in Yuba City. I learned a lot from him just about conducting and running a rehearsal and that sort of thing.
And was he at Yuba City High School? Did you go to Yuba City High?
I did, yes.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah, and he was at Yuba City High School. And he was also the conductor of the YubaSutter Symphony for about 30 years. And so
oh, wow.
When the time came that he was retiring from that, he kind of passed that on to me. And again, he helped me a lot with just, figuring out how to, like I said, run a rehearsal, run an effective rehearsal, making sure that the musicians, whether they're students or adults, that they know what your expectations are of them, of their time and of their efforts. But yeah, just kind of some of those other behind the scenes types of things, not just, waving your hands in front of people, but, kind of how to manage. So cool. Yeah.
What about the transition from violinist to conductor too? I mean, soloists or part of an ensemble versus being, leader of the band, so to speak.
Mm-hmm.
Did you have to take classes or on-the-job training, or how about that?
Yeah, I did. In college, to be a music education major, you do have to take some conducting classes. Okay. So I did a semester of conducting with the orchestra conductor, whose name was Michael Allard, and he was really great. I really enjoyed working with him at UOP. I also had a semester of conducting with Eric Hammer, who some people from the area. Eric Hammer, he actually started by teaching out at Lyndhurst High School, and I think it was the early 80s, and he had this monster marching band at Lyndhurst High School. They called it the Big Red Machine. I think it was the Big Red Machine. And anyway, and that was kind of where he got started, and then he continued on and got his doctorate and was the band director at UOP for a number of years. But I enjoyed learning from him. Because he was the band director, I didn't get to do too much with him other than some conducting and some music ed classes with him. But I learned a lot from that. And then I think, I always kind of wanted to be a conductor in some capacity. I have this memory of being a kid out at Lindcrest School and talking to kids on the playground and say, what are you going to be when you grow up? And I said, well, I think I'm going to be maybe the conductor of a symphony orchestra. And they're like looking at me weird. And I was like, or maybe an astronaut. So it's always been something that I've been interested in with conducting. And but making that transition, I think it was a challenging transition coming as a former student, working with the Yuba Sutter Symphony eventually. And, there are a number of people in the Yuba Sutter Symphony that were my former teachers. And now I'm leading my group of former teachers and trying to get used to that transition.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
So, yeah.
Did you ever have a class with Dean Esterbrook?
I did. Yeah. I was
right?
part of the chamber choir at Yuba City High School with Dean. And and he was obviously one of those top-notch teachers too. So
Dean was, I have a special fondness for Dean. He was really when I moved here 11 years ago, a year or two later, I got put in charge of doing a Rotary fundraiser concert. We had a couple of Italian Rotarians were coming through, Francesco Attesti and Paolo, I forget his last name, but they were professional musicians from Italy, and they were traveling Rotarians. And they said, hey, if your club wants to put on a fundraiser, we'll perform. We need to charge X dollars. You charge whatever and keep the difference. And so somebody said, oh, call Dean Esther over at St. Andrew. So I called him out of the blue, and he was very kind and helped arrange the use of St. Andrew Presbyterian Church and that beautiful sanctuary for our concert. And we just had a lot of fun. So it's been fun getting to know Dean over the years and finding out his incredibly important place in our local music community.
Oh, yeah, definitely.
Yeah, well, that's just fantastic. So we've talked, some about your work as a musician in Yuba Sutter, educator, working within the school district, Yuba City Unified School District, and of course your orchestra. Talk a little bit more about your work as the conductor of the Yuba Sutter Symphony. That's an amazing ensemble. So
yeah, that's been a lot of fun, and I think I've grown a lot being able to work with that group. I first started conducting that group in 2002 with the Handel's Messiah of 2002. So about 18 years. And that group, it's been fun because I've been able to challenge myself and challenge them. And one of our goals with the Yuba Sutter Symphony is to put on the highest quality music that we can for free for our community. So going back to kind of artists sharing their art with people freely, and that's one of our goals and one of our purposes is to be able to share that music with our community for everyone and anyone that can come and wants to experience something new. And we have grown our concert season slightly. When I first started, and the YubaSutter Symphony is part of the YubaSutter Oratorio Society.
Yeah, that's kind of the umbrella organization, right?
Yes, and that organization has been around for more than 80 years now, which is incredible. With their underlying purpose is to, first of all, is to put on Handel's Messiah every year, and to promote music in our community and to promote music among the youth in our community. And so we've grown our concert. We have Handel's Messiah that we do every year still. We have a young artist concert in February where we get to feature some outstanding youth soloists that they audition to perform a solo with the symphony, which is a really unique and special opportunity for those students. And that's something that we've been really proud to be able to continue to provide that opportunity for the students. And just again to share the talent that's in our community with the community, with those youth, and a lot of those, quite a few of those young artist soloists that have been featured with the symphony over the years have gone on to become professional musicians or educators in their own capacity. I was one. We have Jennifer Aldridge, who used to teach here, Helen Graham, who's teaching here right now.
We know Helen, yeah.
Yeah, but there are quite a few people that have gone on from that experience, and that we'd like to think that was part of their stepping stone in their musical growth in their careers, and it's been neat to kind of see that continuation of their growth and going on and doing it professionally and sharing their music then with new students and a new community for some of those.
Again, it continues to give back.
Yeah, but the YubaSutter Symphony, we also do a Pops concert every spring that has been a lot of fun. And we've expanded that over the last 5 or 6 years to really start to focus on it being really a Broadway Pops concert, where we bring in some outstanding vocal soloists to sing some original Broadway and movie selections with the orchestra, and we have to rent these selections from New York or from the Disney company sometimes to be able to perform them. We've had some great soloists. Alex has been one of our soloists in previous years, so that was a lot of fun.
Director Alex Cecina behind the scenes today, helping us out, making us look good.
I don't know how to get him to come back and sing from Boston though, so that might be it. So but that Pops concert has been a lot of fun, and we've been, as the last few years, we've been featuring the choir from Twin Rivers Charter School as part of that concert too, and they've got a great music teacher there, Obi Leff, that I know you know.
Absolutely, and, he's going to be on with us in a couple of weeks. Yeah,
excellent. Yeah, so Obi's amazing, and he does great work with the students over there, and it's been fun to feature them. And again, bringing in and sharing our music with maybe people that wouldn't normally go to a symphony concert, but we're able to share it and feature those kids from that choir with their families, and again, reaching out to the community, and that's been a successful concert too.
I'm particularly fond of the YubaSutter Symphony. My one experience being on stage with a band. You remember this?
Absolutely.
When you did the Aaron Copland, you invited me to read the narration for a Lincoln portrait, and you tolerated my complete lack of technical knowledge of music as I fumbled my way along trying to read at the appropriate time. It was great fun.
No, absolutely. That was one of my favorite concerts, actually. And that's something that we've done in our fall. Normally we call it our Fall Classics concert, where we really focus on bringing some of the true classics of symphonic repertoire to our community with the YubaSutter Symphony. And that concert, we featured the works of Aaron Copland and the Lincoln portrait, which was actually recommended to me from one of our musicians. Jan Roberts Hayden, I think, was the one that recommended that piece. And we also did the Appalachian Spring, which is one of my favorite pieces by Copland. That's a challenge.
Is it tough? Is it tough music?
Oh yes, yeah, a challenge to play and to conduct with time signature changes all over the place.
Okay, I understand that. Yeah.
But yeah, that was a really great concert. That was one of my favorites.
A beauty. Well, gosh, you're a busy guy. You've been a member as a violinist as part of the Viridian String Quartet. We're still trying to see where we're going to go with that ensemble in the new world whenever things reopen, to try to get something going with Rebecca and Helen and Randy and Kate, the new quartet, and we'll wish a speedy recovery. But thanks for keeping the music going. Handel's Messiah this year will be virtual. Has that been decided?
Yes, we are going to be doing it virtually in the sense we're going to be rebroadcasting I think it's our 75th anniversary performance that we're going to rebroadcast, where we had some professional videographers come in, and so we're going to share that with online. And also we've done the last 6 or 8 years the Messiah for Kids. That's been really, really fun and really well received, and we're going to rebroadcast our Messiah from Kids from last year, where Handel himself came and visited and got to teach us a little bit about what Handel's Messiah is all about. And it was a lot of fun. Even some of the orchestra and the choir said that was the most fun they've had doing Handel's Messiah, which so yeah. And we look forward to when we can perform again, obviously, but but we want to continue that tradition of sharing music, and in particular Handel's Messiah, with the community. So keep your ears out for that, but that's going to be the first weekend, I believe, in December, when we're going to be rebroadcasting those.
And you just recently did a rebroadcast of, was it a 2015 performance of Beethoven's Ninth?
Yes. Yeah, and that, again, was that was kind of something that had been in the back of my mind of wanting to try to do in our community, but trying to figure out how we would do it in our community. And if you're not familiar with Beethoven's Ninth Symphony, Beethoven's Ninth Symphony has, it's a full symphonic orchestra that you need. And the final movement, you need a full chorus as well. And you need 4 soloists, 4 vocal soloists also. So, but that's something that we talked about as an Oratorio Society, and we approached the Master Chorale and Catherine Campbell about that, who's the director of the chorale, and they were on board. And it's probably a year or so we kind of had it in the works, kind of planning it out how we were going to make that happen. And it was a really great collaboration, and we pulled in some of the members of the Viridian Symphony at the time to help fill out some of our string section. And it was a really great performance, and something really special, I think, for our community, for basically just our community members to be putting on this immense symphonic work with full symphony, with full chorus. And it was an outstanding performance, and we did 2 concerts, and both concerts were just packed full. And so it's something that, that we keep talking about. Well, let's figure out how we can do something like that again. And obviously not right now. But even I remember in the moment that after those concerts, just talking amongst some of the musicians, just with the response from the community and the response from the musicians that were involved, just that it was a really enjoyable performance. They were all really, really proud of being able to work together to put that together between the different organizations that were all involved. So just being able to collaborate to bring that to our community was something really special and super well received. That's the most people we've ever had at any of our concerts. So it was very.
I'm always so pleased to see that level of participation, because one of the things we're always concerned about is, hey, is there an audience for this, whatever it might be? And Beethoven's Ninth is pretty special, but it may not be for everyone. But clearly you pack the house. And I think back when I first came here 11 years ago, I think I saw my introduction to the Arts Council where I now live, and the Burroughs Theater was Joaquina Calvo Johnson's production of Marriage of Figaro, in which Catherine Campbell and Thor Campbell and several other folks I've since met performed. I had volunteered to be an usher. I heard, gee, we have opera in this town. Oh my gosh, I'm an opera guy, and it was just spectacular. Now, and then that all went away, of course, when Joaquina went away, but sadly. But I did at least experience that and got to meet her. Is there still a market for that if we were suddenly to revive an opera? And it's just great to know that at least there's a market for classical music. Not to turn it into dollars and cents. It's not that, because you all are volunteering and providing that music to the community. So it's just really great to hear that you can pack a house for Beethoven twice. Yeah. And what's the capacity at St. Andrews? At 300 something?
We estimated, because we had a lot of overflow, we estimated there were probably
in the lobby area there.
Yeah, so we estimated we probably had about 400 at each of those performances.
Yeah, okay, 400. Wow.
So yeah,
that's just fantastic. I mean, just so cool.
Yeah.
Jay, all right. Well, we'll keep doing what we're doing. Is the Beethoven's Ninth still up on the website? Is it accessible?
Yes, I think it is. Right? Yep, and it's on our Oratorio website, which is YSOS.org. And there's just a link in there to go and follow it. And that performance, again, that was also recorded professionally by a friend of ours, Radu Sava, Rebecca's husband.
Oh, yeah, sure.
And so the camera work is fantastic. We have, a couple of cameras out in the audience. There was one camera up on me, which was kind of fun to watch.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's up there, YSOS.org.
Yeah, take a look if you you haven't seen it, even if you just skip ahead to the hot parts, if you want to, got your favorite sections, you know, but it's a lot of music, but it's really well done and beautifully performed. So you're doing a Pink October concert, or is that a rebroadcast also?
It's also a rebroadcast.
Okay.
So a few years ago, I think it was 2017, we performed this piece of music called Sing for the Cure. And we're going to be sharing that again a week from Saturday on the 17th. And we have the licensing to have it streamed online for about 30 days, I think, is what our license is for that. But it's a really unique piece of music. It's for orchestra and choir and some soloists and a narrator. And we performed it originally in 2017 to raise funds for the Give a Key Caring for Women Foundation as part of Pink October. And the piece, it talks about a person's experience with cancer, and it talks about a community's, you know, how a community responds when somebody has cancer. It talks about how a spouse might respond when someone has cancer, how friends, how doctors, and it kind of goes through this gamut of emotions where, you know, there's some anger in it, there's frustration, confusion, but the ultimate goal and the ultimate message is that there's hope. And that's kind of the ultimate message of the piece, as it kind of goes through these different songs, going through these different emotions. And the music is incredibly well written. It's written by a few different contemporary composers, but really the music really helps kind of express those emotions as well. And as you're listening to it, it really, some of it's hard to listen to because it's not very melodic, but it's expressing that angst and that frustration and confusion through the music, through the harmonies that you hear, in addition to the words that the choir is singing. So it's a really great piece of music, and again, with the ultimate message of hope, and that there is hope for people with cancer and all those that are affected, because I think it affects all of us. Everybody knows somebody that's had cancer.
Well, it sounds like it's got relevance even beyond Pink October and cancer these days, particularly with everything that we're dealing with. So it is a fundraiser for Give a Key Foundation for Women. Is there a way to contribute online, do you know, or?
There is a way to donate, and I'll have to double check with our board if we're contributing those donations to Pink October again. And I don't remember off the top of our head if we were going to be pursuing that or not. But
sorry to put you on the spot there.
No, that's okay. That's something that we should figure out, and I'll bring that up so we can make that clear to everybody.
It's a great organization. Folks can certainly make a contribution regardless. So fantastic. So what about your interests as a musician? I mean, who are some of your favorite composers?
I already talked a little bit about Copland.
Right.
I really love Aaron Copland. When we think about more classical music, and as a violinist, one of the things I enjoy playing is Handel and Bach. It just makes sense. And maybe that's the part of my brain that enjoyed math as a kid, you know, just Handel and Bach. It just fits under your fingers just really well, and just everything, it just makes it makes a lot of sense as you're playing it as a musician.
As a non-musician, I can kind of understand that.
And
I can relate.
Yeah, and then I really enjoy some of the romantic composers. I enjoy Dvorak's music a lot. I really enjoy some pieces by Tchaikovsky. And a lot of it comes from things that I've played over the years too, just where I kind of fall in love with the piece as I'm learning it, or if I'm playing it or conducting it. And I just kind of get attached to that, and there are special parts of the music that really I enjoy playing. But Tchaikovsky and Dvorak I enjoy. Mozart I enjoy, but I don't always enjoy it playing it, especially if you're not a first violin. If you're a first violinist, then Mozart, most of the melody is in the first violin part. If you're not the first violin part, you're usually just the accompaniment the whole time. So, but yeah, I would say those are some good composers. And then I do love John Williams too. Pretty much anything by John Williams. So
yeah, pretty amazing, huh? What about favorite conductors or favorite violinists?
to be honest, I don't follow big name conductors that much where I go out and I really try to study or imitate them. I think in my own conducting, I've learned through being a musician playing under different conductors that as I'm playing as a violinist in a group with various conductors, and I notice things that they do that I want to then emulate in my own conducting. Like Pete Nowlin, who conducted the Beethovens Symphony a couple times, but he's in the Sacramento area. I really enjoyed. I've enjoyed my experiences working with him. And Scott Seaton, who's also done some conducting with the Viridian over the years. He's
North State Symphony, right? Is one of his.
Symphony. Yeah, and he's really fantastic. And he has a way to just bring music to life. Interesting. That's fun to watch, and it's fun to be part of those groups when he's conducting. It's a lot of fun. Those, and then again, when I was in the Sacramento Youth Symphony, Michael Newman, who was the conductor there, I think he taught me a lot about just conducting youth and helping youth and students understand the importance of the music and how to how to help young people express music in a new way and not just play the notes on a page. I think those conductors really I admire and try to emulate some of their conducting in my own.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
How about violinists?
As far as violinists, I saw Hilary Hahn perform one time. Gosh, it was probably maybe 20 years ago. She, I think, was still a teenager, but she was performing, I think it was like with the Santa Rosa Symphony or something at the time.
Wow.
Anyway, and so it was before she had really kind of made it big, but she was kind of starting to get out there as a young phenom, and that was a lot of fun to watch her play. Gil Shaham, I haven't seen him perform in person, but I have listened to a lot of his recordings in studying some pieces that I was learning on the violin. The Barber Violin Concerto is one that I performed in college, and I listened to his recordings a lot, and that I just really fell in love with how he played that. And then as a young kid, I got to see Yehudi Menuhin play at UC Davis, and that was my first time really seeing a professional, big time violinist, and that was pretty neat too.
Oh, exciting!
Yeah,
exciting times. Are there pieces or specific pieces or certain composers that you'd like to perform that you've never had the chance to? Or is there something on your wish list that you really want to do?
Yeah, I have a few, I think, still. And the Beethoven, that was one of them. Tchaikovsky's Symphony No. 6, his Sixth Symphony, Pathétique.
Pathétique, right? Yeah. Okay. Sure.
But that's one that's kind of on my wish my wish list, and I've talked to some of the musicians in the orchestra, the YubaSutter Symphony, about doing that in the future, and we're not quite there yet. That is quite a challenging piece, but that's still on my to-do list for our community, because I think that'd be great to share with our community. I think it'd be neat, and I haven't really pursued this at all yet, but to do some form of the Nutcracker. There's the Nutcracker Suite, which is just the orchestral suite for the Nutcracker music. But I think it'd be neat to do maybe the Nutcracker Suite at some point in time, and invite some students from some of the local dance companies to maybe do some dancing with it with the live orchestra.
So
again.
That's never been done here that you're aware of on any kind of scale.
Not with a live orchestra that I'm aware of.
Wow.
And I could be wrong, but not in recent memory anyway. But that would be something, even if we didn't do the full Nutcracker, which would be immense. But doing a modified version with live music and live dancing and some costumes. I think that'd be kind of fun to do at some point in time.
We saw it at the San Francisco Ballet last holiday season. Oh my gosh! And that's the the whole production on steroids, and
Yeah.
as you can imagine. But I love the idea of doing a local production.
Yeah.
Okay, well, I'll put that on my list along with Amal and the Night Visitors and a couple of other things.
There you go. Yeah. And then with doing things around Christmas time, it becomes a challenge just because we always do Handel's Messiah, but just trying to figure out how to balance rehearsals for Handel's Messiah and
Right.
do some other thing in the Christmas time when we have a volunteer orchestra and not burning people out to the point where
don't want to wear out your welcome, right?
That's right. That's right. That is something I've thought about though too, as far as going back to the Christmas thing. I have seen some other organizations do like a Christmas Pops concert. We do our Pops concert in the spring. There are some great pieces that would be fun to do, like a winter or a holiday Pops concert with an orchestra, and then again, kind of with some soloists or some children's choirs kind of thing, but with the live orchestra. So
Love it.
Somewhere in time.
Yes, indeed. So any composers you absolutely avoid for whatever reason, difficulty, personal preference, just distasteful for some reason, or?
I don't know there are any that I specifically avoid. I'm usually pretty open to trying out different pieces, even if I'm not familiar with them. I usually try to do my study on them before I commit to something, yes or no. But I don't know if there's anybody I'm avoiding at this point in time. I like to branch out and find some pieces that maybe aren't 100% mainstream. But at the same time, I do like to bring some of those classical standards of the symphonic repertoire that some people in our community have never heard before, and trying to find some of those. So trying to balance those, I think, is a good.
That's a really good point. You don't want to get too far out there when you got folks here, like you said, that maybe haven't just heard a live performance of some of the old war horses, and they're always, they're important because they're so good, and that's a great point. When you're putting together a season to that, on that kind of continuing that idea, I mean, how does the Oratorio Society work? Do you have does everybody get to vote, the board, or do you make suggestions and try to sell it, or how does that process work?
As far as the symphonic music, it's usually up to me selecting the music for a season. I do, especially recently, I've been really trying to talk with the musicians in the symphony, because our symphony is as much about the community as it is also about those musicians, because some of the musicians in our symphony have been playing their instrument their whole lives. They're professional or semi-professional, and yet they haven't played some of these standard orchestral pieces. And it would be, so I try to get some input from symphony members as, what's on your wish list of something you've never played before, but you would love to play, or it has a great clarinet solo in it that you'd like to do again,
nice.
or something like that. And so I do have discussions and reach out for input from the orchestra members themselves, and then from that I try to kind of compile what I feel would then be complementary music that would be interesting, intriguing for the orchestra, as well as interesting and intriguing for the audience too. So yeah.
I like that idea of collaborating with the musicians. They give so much, and rehearsal time, performance time, and I mean, they want to do it, they love to do it, but still having some buy-in, giving them a opportunity to provide input like that. That's true leadership. We appreciate that. Good for you.
Thanks.
Got any favorite musician jokes that we can share on a public thing here?
I'm going to pass on that one.
All right, I know. The couple I know are not appropriate, but here's one. You're a violinist. What's the difference between a violin and a fiddle? Have you heard this one?
I think I do, but I'll let you finish it.
It's a bottle of bourbon is what I heard.
Oh, okay.
Fiddle, violin, right? Depending on what the musical genre.
The one I heard was one you carry in a case and one you carry in a knapsack over your shoulder. So
okay, that's the same idea, right?
Yeah.
Same interest, same instrument, different setting.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh, we could go on forever. This has been so much fun. Let's wrap things up as we do each week with our questions that we've cloned from our friend James Lipton, who used to have a TV show called Inside the Actor's Studio. He typically interviewed actors, but we've sort of grabbed the idea, and we share this with all of our artists, whether they're musicians or actors or visual artists. So, and it's been a lot of fun. So let's give it a try. So Corey, what is your favorite word?
My favorite word, that's a tough one. I was actually talking to my high school students about this and trying to figure out if there's something I say a lot. One of them said I say or I think I said I say a lot, and I was like, well, is actually a really good word because you can use it to stall, you can use it to censor yourself from saying something else.
Yes.
I think actually one of my favorite words right now is the word and for a couple of reasons. One of them is my wife has taught me how to use the word and instead of using the word but, and kind of strategically. So if you're asking for something, you're not apologizing. When you say the word but, you're kind of apologizing. So substitute the word and instead of that. And so I've been intentionally using the word and more often, thanks to my wife. And also, we talked about Obi Leff. Obi Leff has some great philosophical views on education, and he talks a lot about the power of and that things are better when we work together and we include more people, and using and is kind of one of those ways that we include other people and bring other parts into things. So I think and is a good word.
I like it. Thank you, and thank Obi.
Yeah.
That's sort of like what are those called? Are those conjunctions? Is that part of speech?
Yes.
What's your least favorite word?
I would say can't, and that's something that I hear from students a lot, and I try to redirect it, and going to people like Obi again, and even Jim Achilles, who you may know.
Did a whole show called "Can't Say Can't."
Yep. Yeah, and not using the word can't, especially as we're learning something, and that's something I really try to focus on with my students. Is we're all at our own levels, and I don't expect everybody to be at the same level. But we're all improving at our own pace and trying to make that growth kind of at our own pace. And it's okay if you're not able to do something. And Jim talks about can't say can't. Obi talks about you can't do something yet. And that's Obi's little catchphrase, is not doing something yet. So both of those guys kind of help redirect that in my own thinking with the word can't and talking about students.
That's a great one. Can't is one of my least favorite words. So,
yeah.
Wonderful. So what turns you on creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
Musically, if finding something new, finding some new form of music, some new song that has a new approach, a new feel, a new harmony. When those things come up, they're just really exciting to me, and kind of get my mind racing on how I can do other things with that piece of music. My own family, we have 4 kids, I think I said before, but they're all very much into dance and theater right now. And so our family, we kind of joke that life is a musical, but we're very much into theater and Broadway things. And a couple years ago, when The Greatest Showman came out in the theater, we hadn't seen it yet, but one of my kids was playing Pandora, and the song "A Million Dreams" came on from The Greatest Showman, and I hadn't heard it before, and it was just new, and it was just beautiful, and it was the kid singing it, and I told my daughter, I was like, "What is that song?" And anyway, I just kind of fell in love with that song, and so then we went and watched the movie, and that was great, and that song kind of spiraled into actually kind of directing how we were going to theme our Pops concert that year, with when we featured that song and a couple other songs from The Greatest Showman. So yeah, finding something new musically, it's really exciting to me, and then I like finding ways to share it and kind of bring it to life.
Fantastic. But on the other hand, what turns you off creatively, spiritually, or emotionally?
So in a similar way, when those new things are out there, it's when they get overused and used too much.
Yeah.
I was actually talking to my high school kids today about kind of like a little reverse bell curve of how, when something new comes around and you get excited about it and everybody kind of follows along and they all discover it and this is great and you're up this mountaintop of, oh, this is the most amazing thing ever. And then you get tired of it and you start coming down the hill.
Oh.
So when things get overused or overdone, that I kind of get burned out. So I have to kind of pace myself with some of those things so they don't get burned out, at least not too quickly.
Hear, hear. Do you have a favorite curse word?
I don't really curse. My wife and I, we've been watching the show The Good Place. I don't know if you've ever watched the show.
Seen it.
Anyway, it's about the characters and it's about the afterlife and they're supposedly in heaven and that sort of thing. And they can't curse in The Good Place. And so when they try to curse, other words come out. So words like fork and shirt. and so every time they say fork and shirt on the show, I just think it's hilarious.
Fork. That's good. That's good. What sound or noise do you love?
Do I love? Musically, one of the things I really love is a really great brass quintet, like the Canadian brass.
Sure.
It's a really great brass quintet with good balance and intonation. That might be one of my favorite just ensembles actually to listen to is a really great brass group.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
What sound or noise do you hate?
So on a violin, behind the bridge of the violin, there's about 2 more inches of string that usually have some string wind that kind of winds the string up. And if you put your bow on that 2 inches of string, it makes this awful screeching sound. That's probably one of my least favorite sounds. And so I try to never tell my students how to do that or introduce that sound to them on purpose. However, there are some pieces that are kind of Halloween themed that actually the instructions and the music say to put your bow behind the bridge and to make those squeaky sounds. But yeah, that gives me the chills in not a good way.
Yes. What profession other than your own would you like to attempt?
Something I've always thought would be fun to do, and it's similar to what I'm already doing, but would be to be a professional musician in like a Broadway pit orchestra. Or to be a conductor for a Broadway pit orchestra or professional pit orchestra. I think that'd be a lot of fun.
Wow.
I've conducted pits at Yuba City High School with their drama program there, and that's been a lot of fun. So I think that'd be something I could probably stand to do if I went to.
Fun. What profession would you not like to pursue?
As an 8th grader, I got to shadow an architect because I thought that might be something I wanted to do because my brother, who's older than me, he was really into architecture and engineering, and so I thought, I'll go kind of see what it's about. And that I decided that is something I would not want to do. I do not care. I'm not very good at drawing, nor do I care to be good at drawing, and so that's not something I want to do.
Sounds like you made the right choice.
Yeah.
And our last question. So what would you like to hear God say when you arrive at the pearly gates?
First of all, I would hope he would say, well done. And I would hope he would invite me to not be the leader of a group. Sometimes I enjoy just participating in a group and not being in charge of a group and just playing music for the sake of enjoying music and that sort of thing. So yeah, I would hope I wouldn't get assigned to be in charge of something, at least not right away.
Oh, great answer. Great answer. Well, meanwhile, while you're back here on Earth, thank you for your leadership, and you're just a treasure in the community, and we're so thankful to have you.
Thank you, David. That means a lot. Thanks.
Stay safe, be well, and all the best to you and your family.
All right. Same to
Thanks
you.
also to our technical support team, producer Abby Cecina, and our technical directors, Alex Cecina and Shante Arroyo, who have been behind the scenes taking good care of us as always. Until next time, that's it for Artist Alchemy. Don't forget the other great Yuba Sutter Arts virtual events coming up on Facebook. Tons of things happening, something for everybody. Just take a look and see if you can dial into something that we're doing. Our guest next week will be local theater legend, actor, director, translator, educator, Mr. Conrad Cecil. So hope to see you next Tuesday at 4 o'clock. Until then, take care. Be well.